Ozzie, and today I'm going to talk to you all about a very important sociologist for Sociology 401, Dr. Rebecca Clark's class. And the sociologist that I wish to speak to you about is named C.W. Mills, which is Charles Wright Mills. To start with, I would like to talk a little bit about where he originated from and maybe some of the reasons why Mills decided to become a sociologist, where some of his theories may have originated from, because I really do feel that Mills, his childhood and his upbringing and his whole past is what contributed to him to go on to become a sociologist and to develop the theories and beliefs that he did. To start with, his father, who was C.G. Mills, worked in the insurance industry, and as a result, him and his wife, who was a homemaker, and Mills traveled around from place to place constantly. And as a result, Mills was unable to develop friendships and long-lasting relationships because of the constant moving from place to place to place. And so I think that gave him a very difficult childhood and a very difficult upbringing because he just couldn't put down roots anywhere. He just couldn't develop himself socially. So when C.W. Mills graduated high school, with encouragement from his father, he went to Texas A&M College to become an engineer. While he was there, he wrote his very first publication to the battalion. The publication that he wrote was a letter, and in that letter it stated his dislike of how the underclassmen population was treated so unfairly and so negatively by the upper class population. So this letter made a lot of people mad because he really felt like the higher up people in college, the juniors and seniors, really took advantage of those lower classmen and really didn't make them feel welcome. So he wrote a letter and complained. He only ended up staying at Texas A&M for 1 year before he moved on to the University of Texas, where he later received his bachelor's degree in sociology and his master's degree in philosophy. And while he was at the University of Texas, he met his first wife, which was Dorothy Smith, and they called her Freya. From there, he ended up going on to marry 3 times. The first wife, of course, was Dorothy Smith Freya. The second one was Ruth Harper. And the third and final wife, which he was still married to when he died, was Yaroslava Cermak. And from these 3 women, he had 3 separate children: Pamela, Catherine, and Nicholas. C.W. Mills, at the time, was kind of considered a bit of a rebel in the sociological field. The reason being is he kind of took views and did theories and investigated certain things that was not of normal, not of normal research. One of the theories he developed was on personal troubles and public issues. And in that theory, it states that a lot of times the government will take something that should be a public issue, but turns that around to become a personal issue. For example, if you're not able to find a job, and you go out and you put in applications, and you look everywhere that you can to find a job, but you just can't find one, or you just can't find one that pays enough money to meet your bills and that kind of thing. Well, instead of that being an economic problem, something that, and in some cases it is a personal thing, but it really depends, I guess, on the time frame. But instead of the government looking and saying, oh, well, we're in a recession, or we're, we've lost a lot of business to overseas, or whatever, the government will turn around and say, oh, it's your own personal fault. Everything is great with the economy. You're just not working hard enough to find a job. You're just not working hard enough to pay your bills. And I'm sorry your house is in foreclosure, but it's really all your own fault. And really, a lot of times it isn't. It's really not a personal issue. It's a lot of public issue. Two of the sociologists that had great influence on meals was Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. Marx, one of his opinions was about the haves and the have-nots, which Mills later went on to add to that, which came up with a lot of the political influence, the power elite, and that kind of thing. And which I wanted to talk about that in just a minute and go into the power elite a little further. But he was really adamant that society has broken apart into the haves and the have-nots, which was contributed to and by the power elite. Mills also took Weber's views and built upon them. Weber had a more placid approach to social reform, whereas Mills had a more radical approach. Mills really was aggressive. He was not afraid to tackle social problems that some people were afraid to investigate for fear of retaliation, or fear of other sociologists putting them down or not gaining research dollars or those things. But Mills didn't care. He was like, in order to achieve social reform, sociologists really have to buckle down hard and look into these topics that people just kind of graze over. Another thing that Mills really despised was the media. He really did not like the influence that the media had. And the power elite could use the media to their advantage by putting out messages stating that the policies and procedures that the government is incorporating is really to the best interest of the people. Really kind of gets everybody to thinking that it is, and not really looking at the root of the policies and stuff to see how it will affect them. The power and the power elite are the political, the corporate, and the military. And it used to be a long time ago, those three separate branches had a system of checks and balances. They really weren't one big cohesive group. It was three separate groups. But with this day and age, those three separate groups have really kind of came into one big group, because a lot of the corporate businessmen are also our politicians. So when they set up and develop laws and rules and that kind of thing, then is it really to the good of the general public, or is it really to their benefit? For example, oil. We've had a couple of instances in the oil field where we've had wars and stuff with Afghanistan and all that kind of thing. So is it really to the benefit of the people to do that, or is it really benefit to the oil industry in the U.S., which is namely like our politicians, who a lot of those people also own or involved in the oil industry. They have oil wells. They have land where oil has been taken from them. So you really have to kind of think, well, is this right? Are these people really doing what is in the best interest of Americans? And Mills also thought that individuals were kind of becoming robots. We kind of come into our everyday lives and just in a very robotic nature. We go to work, we come home, we go to work, we come home, and we're just kind of building the corporate leaders but we're just kind of losing our individualism. Getting back to ourselves. And also, he said that sociologists really needed to be more proactive in helping mankind to achieve a better life and a better goal, and not just be quite so passive. And he also stated that the intellectual people of the world really needed to use that intellect to reach out and create a better social structure for Americans, so our society can grow and prosper and live on further. And it's really an injustice to our society not to use your intellect to create a better society. So in closing, C.W. Mills had strong theories that were proven to be very true. He was a very radical person. He was very confrontational. He didn't really care who he angered or if his opinions bothered anybody or not. He was really out to tell people how things really were and how things really are and what he felt we can do to create a better society. He was just extremely forceful, and I really feel that he did have Americans, and for that matter, people all across the globe, best interest in heart. So I really do appreciate the theories and the research that he did in order to create the ideas and opinions that he did. Thank you very much. Is there any questions?